Hey, Danny, welcome to the show, man. So glad to have you here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you for having me again. I appreciate being on.
It's always a pleasure. At least from what I've heard, it's a pleasure to have you here because, like I said, I had missed the first couple of ones. I got to tell you, you did one hell of a job with a team that's been decimated by injuries this entire season. How do you go about changing your game plan week to week when all of a sudden you realize, well, I don't have Grayson Duty for the rest of the season, and now I don't have Tom Brewitt for the next 8 weeks? How does that change your mentality?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing I think probably to say is always we have a squad of players that we the reason we train every day with the whole squad in the way that we do is because we have very much a next man up mentality in the group, and it's that really is the key to it, and that's certainly not to avoid the point you make to say we of course we had some fairly substantial injury problems, particularly in one stage of the season this year, and of course someone like a Grayson from early on, Liam as well to name another from the early stages really. So yes, we had some issues, but we trust the squad, we trust the players, and I think one thing we have seen from this group this year is that whoever is called on to play, those players give everything that they can for the team, and I think at right back this year we've used 6, 7 different players, which is maybe not a normal thing, particularly in that sort of position, I would say. But even to the last game with Malik and with Mo playing in those positions, everybody I think performed an excellent role for the team, and that's really the key, Larry. Is just everybody being ready for whatever is required of them, and a big part of that is a culture and a mentality. And I think it's right for me in this moment, with the question you've asked, to pay big respect to the players that have stepped up and been asked to play in roles that perhaps aren't their primary position on the field, but not for a moment did anybody have any hesitation in saying no problem. I do what I need to. You use me where you need to use me for the team, and they go after it and do the best possible job that they can. So I have huge respect for everybody that's played a role in whether it's their primary position or not this year at various times. And I think, yeah, you're right in the point that you make. We've had to make a lot of adjustments, and it's been quite a game by game, situation to make some decisions on what we feel is the best choice and the best plan of action for the team that week for that game. But honestly, for me, the easy part of that is that whichever way we go, I don't have doubts in the character and the mentality of the players. And the tough choices come in which players to select sometimes. But once you make those decisions, I trust the group of players that we have, and like I say, I have big respect for all of them in what they've given in that regard. Certainly.
And speaking of Malik and playing right back, and I'm sure you're well aware of this. I don't know if our audience is well aware of this. And it was either Ray or it was producer Andy who asked him after that final home game, "Have you played right back before?" And his answer was, "I've never played it in my entire life."
Yeah.
And yet he still was able to step up and do a fantastic job. Switching gears just a little bit, prior to the game Saturday night at the watch party at the rinks, I talked to a gentleman. He kind of looks a lot like you, just a little bit older. And we had a little bit of a discussion about bringing Tet into the game in place of Colin for the penalty shootout. And I was discussing that with him, and I said, did Danny mention anything about that to you? He said, didn't say a word. It came as a shock, and it was a brilliant move on his part. Now we can all just assume that this was something that was planned and discussed ahead of time. I'm sure that you didn't just come up with this idea in the 115th minute, right?
Yeah, look, of course, it's not something that we come up with on the spur of the moment. However, you never quite know how the game is going to play out, and of course, in order to be able to make that change, you have to still be in a situation where you have the substitution moment available to do that, which you never are quite, especially when you've gone through extra time, you never quite know what stage you're going to be at with that. But I think yeah, of course, look from the point of view of pre-planning and thinking ahead, we had obviously a good idea that if we got to that stage in the game, that would be something that we would look at doing. So I think that was from the coaching staff. That was certainly something that we, of course, pre-planned and spoke about before. But at the same time, like I say, you never quite know whether the game situation will allow it, and so you again have to be flexible either way. But in this occasion, we were able to make that change, and I think for Cam as well, coming on to take a penalty kick, that's never an easy situation. And of course, Tet rightly gets a huge amount of the plaudits for that moment, but also Cam coming on to take a kick and scoring from the spot. That's that takes a lot of courage from him as well.
And really, Tet and Cam deserve all the credit in the world, but let's be honest, Danny. Really, it's you. It's you. We all know it's you. Um, listen, that's it for the question for me. But I just want to tell you, thank you on behalf of all of us here on this soccer cast, on behalf of a lot of fans. We are all incredibly proud of what you guys accomplished this year. We can't wait to see what this team can do next year. We're all very excited to see who comes back next year because that's always a big thing in USL Championship. We'd like to see every single player back next year, but we'll see how that goes. And I'll let somebody take it over. Brad, I think you wanted to go next.
Yeah, and you actually segued kind of into some of my talking points that I'd prepared. So
You're welcome.
obviously, we're in that time of year where we're evaluating players based on, performance in 2025 and looking at who's going to come into 2026. Obviously, as a manager, you have a lot of control over what players we bring in. So I was definitely curious, since it's very unlikely we'll talk to you before the next season begins. What goes into your off-season prep and scouting players and your role in all of that moving into 2026?
Look, it's a busy time right now, and the off season is always it's of course very different from being in the season, but your days are still pretty full with planning. Look, it's you maybe get 24 hours, of some downtime, recovery time from traveling back. But really, as of this morning, we've been back in the office and really starting the planning and starting the conversations and speaking towards next year. And yeah, of course, building the squad and retaining players. Any additions that may come into the squad. Of course, there's always going to be some level of movement. And look, I hear Larry's point to that we'd love to have everybody back. I get that, and in many ways, of course, you create connections to the group that you've just worked with, and I think in large part, I share that sentiment. But I think in reality, we know there'll always be a little bit of change, which is a good thing, as well as something that's somewhat unavoidable. And I think, Brad, to answer your question, the time now is spent really between myself and the staff and Pete, of course. We spend a lot of time now watching players, and we are analysing what does the squad need, where are we going to look to strengthen, where do we need to add to the group in various different ways, from of course an on-field player perspective, but also to make sure that we keep developing and creating a culture that I think we really, one thing that I think I'm probably proudest of through the season this year, as much as anything that we ultimately end up achieving on the field, I believe and I really feel that we've created a culture in this club and in this dressing room this year, with a great set of people and a great set of teammates, and that's something I think for anybody that maybe has the opportunity to be a little bit closer at times to the group, I think you can really feel that. And I think they were very, very connected, very together. And I think, big part of the reason why we were able to make, the push through the last 5 or 6 games of the season, and then, get the result in Sacramento that we did, is largely down to the fact that we've created a culture of togetherness and players who are willing to work for each other. Now, where that relates to the scouting and the question that you've asked, Brad, is that it's very important for us, obviously, to improve the team wherever we possibly can from player traits on the field, but it's hugely important that we try to get it right from the people that we bring into the club. And the organisation has a very specific mission to how we want to create a group. And of course, it's obviously no secret we want to continue to push young players where that's possible and provide those opportunities. But also, of course, we want to make sure we are competitive, and there must be a balance between young players and some more experience, and some senior players in the group for both reasons, from a competitive point of view, but also to aid the development of those younger players that we know are going to continue to be a part of this club. And so there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we spend a huge amount of hours watching video, speaking to players, speaking to people about who might be the right fit, and again, where do we want to look to improve things. And that again is on the field, but just as importantly, bringing people into the club, which I'm huge on this from an energy point of view and a people point of view. That is ultimately where things are successful or not. So there's a lot of time that goes into this, a lot of research and a lot of conversations. And this is, we are now in that stage very quickly this week. And like I say, things don't get any less busy, just in a slightly different way, where maybe a little less time, of course, on the field, and a bit more time in the office setting to build and to plan. And then before you know it, pre-season rolls around fast. So there's a lot of work to get done in these next 8 to 9 weeks before that time comes.
All right, I got 2 more quickies for you. One, what would you give the team for a season grade in your opinion? Using traditional schoolhouse numbers.
That's a tricky question. I mean, I think look, I think for sure we're disappointed that we didn't quite manage to get over the line in the game in New Mexico, and I think it's a tough way to go out. It's probably the worst way, in my opinion, to go out in that fashion. And I felt the team gave everything in the game, and there was nothing really in the game. If I'm honest with you, I really felt it looked like a game that was going to go to overtime, and I felt that would have been probably appropriate for the way the game looked in that period. And so obviously we're extremely gutted and disappointed not to be able to at least take that to extra time and continue the game from that point. But I think to get to that point, and I think the team, as Larry referenced, I think we did overcome quite a lot of adversity through the season in different ways. I mean, I think the season started in a way that was, I think, encouraging. I think pre-season wasn't necessarily the easiest one we'd had. It was quite a big rebuild in terms of how we operated through pre-season. So I felt we got to a good stage start in the season. I think we had a tough spell for a couple of months, certainly, that coincided, I think, with a lot of injuries in the group at that point, and had to really overcome that spell and that adversity to then show, I think, good courage and good bravery, and like, again, more than anything, a real spirit and togetherness. And so I think on that front, I would give the team a high grade. But at the same time, of course, we're always disappointed because we're competitive people, and we want to go out there and this time of season keep winning games. And I felt we were right there in the game, and just fell short. So I mean, look, for me, probably rather than give a specific grade, which I know you're going to tell me is dodging the question, maybe we'll leave that to other people to put that letter on it. But those are really, I think, a sort of a brief overview of some thoughts of where I felt, very proud of the group. And certainly, as I look back over the season, which we'll continue to do here over the next few weeks, certainly we'll do a lot of looking back and some analysis, and again, that will help our future planning. But there's a lot to be proud of with this group, I think, and a lot to be very pleased with. And as always, we will want to learn from it, and we will want to improve, and that will be, the goal moving forward, certainly.
All right, and then since we are going into the off season now, what's your favorite off season activity? Something you look forward to every year?
Honestly, I think there's, there'll come a point where I'll try and enjoy a little bit of mental downtime, probably away from the game. I think that's something that typically is always the most difficult part of management and of coaching is the mental side of things. I mean, physically for everybody, it's a long season and that can take its toll. But I think from my role particularly, it's the challenge mentally is probably as big as anything. And so for me, the ways I like to try to get away from things for a little while. I love to travel. My wife and I will try to get away and travel a little bit at some point, somewhere through the off season, probably over Christmas. And I'm a big Christmas fan in itself. So for me, Christmas is a nice time of year for me just to try to switch off and enjoy the festivities a little bit and try and spend some time with, like I say, some family, some friends that at times it's very difficult to do that during the season to the to the degree that you would like to. So although it's not going to be a long time in the off season from that side of things, it's a nice time just to grab 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully somewhere to go and spend some time with some people. And honestly, what specifically we do, not such a worry for me in that case. I love live entertainment. I love going to see music and any kind of live performance. I love, which I suppose has a tie into the job that I do also in sport. But anything like that, whether it's a comedian, a musician, a theatre show, movies, that type of stuff. I love that side of things. The arts, I would say, probably for me outside of sport is a huge area of interest and something that I both love and also gives me a nice break from what I do day to day. So combination of travel and the arts and spending time with people, that's it.
That actually sounds like a pretty good time. But let me ask you, Danny, what are you doing on December 3rd?
If I'm honest with you, I feel like that could be a loaded question, but I don't know if I have a specific answer to you on that one at the moment.
It's absolutely loaded. Liverpool versus my Black Cats,
Okay.
who are absolutely flying to start the season. I have an offer for you. You ready? Loser has to shave their beard.
Oh, wow, that's the big one. I tell you, I haven't shaved my beard since 2008, so I don't know when the last time was for you. I know you did earlier in the season.
I had a trim. I didn't go completely. It was almost all gone, but not completely. But we got about the same length right now. So I'm just throwing it out there. You have time. You know where to find me. You can reach out to me if you want to accept. If you don't, I wouldn't bet against Sunderland personally, but that's just me. I understand. No problem.
Listen, it's a tough bet for me to take at the moment. I think you've maybe got the upper hand on that one right now. But let me consider that a little bit and get back with you if that's okay.
You got it. I think Ray's got some questions for you now, or Dylan, one of them.
Just skipping right on past me. Danny, go ahead and do me a favor and just don't actually reach out back to Larry at all. You just when he DMs you on Instagram, just leave him on red for me. Thank you. Danny, you mentioned energy a few moments ago, and I'm sure you're probably aware fans were a bit mixed with their opinions of the team and your leadership this summer, but you not only delivered Orange County to another playoff spot, but back to the quarterfinals. So is it a matter of insulating the group from the outside? How do you lead through the highs and lows of an entire league season?
Yeah, it's a long season. And there's going to be, I think, ebbs and flows in it. I think that's true for probably every team in USL. Virtually has those sort of situations through the season, and for various reasons. I think for me, the big things that I'll speak about a lot with the team, and I've mentioned this a few times in interviews and conversations that I've had. I think the biggest words for me during the season that I tend to probably lean on and utilize the most are, energy is a huge one for me, and by that I mean, energy that people give to each other. So people, when you walk in the building, have good energy. When you're interacting with each other, have good energy. And these are the things that on a day-to-day basis build culture. And culture is the thing then that, in the difficult times, that's the side of things that's going to take you through and move you forwards and help you overcome the adversity. And I mentioned, of course, that we've had to do some of that this year for different reasons. And like I say, I felt this group got tighter, got stronger, got more together, had more spirit about them, and gave each other more energy as the season went along. And so for me, it's a long game in that regard. Not so much, of course, we look at it game by game, and every week and every game we play, it's we're very competitive, and we want to try and win that game. But at the same time, I think consistency is another huge thing. Consistency in the end will take you a long way, and it's not so much about players who can do something great on odd occasions. It's people who can be very consistent in what they give to each other, and that's probably a huge message for me through the course of the season. And it's in those sort of difficult times where you find out about each other a little bit, and that's something that I think if you've established that framework and those guidelines early on in the year, and then it becomes something that evolves, and you carry on working through that, and it's constant reminders to each other, and it's constantly people reminding me sometimes as well. But certainly from my side and from the coach's side towards the players, it's being consistent in mentality. It's being consistent in what you ask of each other, and I very much believe that if you are good in that regard, and you enjoy the highs and you celebrate it when you should, and you learn from the lows, and you demand and you expect from each other when you need to, but you never get too carried away in either direction, and you stay the course. Stay the course. This is, I suppose, another phrase that I use a lot with the team is stay the course. Keep moving down the line and keep going through the process. And like I say, in the end, and I think we've seen this again this year, this is in the end, I think what takes people through, and that's probably the biggest message of the season is just that: carry on down the line, stay the course, stay consistent, give good energy, trust each other, trust yourselves, and that bond between the people in the building this year, I felt, got stronger and stronger as we went. And by the time then you get to the latter stage of the season, I think that takes you a long way. I think we've probably seen that again this year.
It's a wonderful message, and probably one that just transcends leading the club.
Yes.
More on a tactical side, I would just love to know your thought process of swapping to a back five, or back three, back five, depending on how you looked at it, for the last few minutes of extra time in Sacramento. Was that just a way to get Tom Brewitt on and his leadership, or what did you see there?
Yeah, I mean, in the game in Sacramento specifically, I think yes, partly that. Yes, we felt probably in that stretch of the game where physically, of course, players are a little more fatigued than any other point in the game, and we felt Tom would be a good addition to that, and his leadership and his voice, his organisation. And Tom obviously is, missed a good chunk of the season, unfortunately, through injury, and then was very, still very early in coming back to full fitness. So, obviously healthy and available to be in the squad. But it had not done a lot of training, only really a week of training leading up to that game, and so we felt, it wasn't just about Tom though. I mean, it was, yes, to get Tom on the field, but as far as the tactical choice to go to a back five, playing against the back five with a team that play with wing backs and have that full width, and really sort of almost play with, two number 10s effectively in the team a lot of the time, or the way that it shapes up and looks like, we felt that it would be a good choice in that period of the game to be able to match up against the wide wing backs and make sure we had, width to cover and protect, and also try to keep them pinned back at times a little bit, but also maybe give us that third centre back in the central areas to cover some of that central space. And against Sacramento, it's a team that when they have the ball in wide areas, you're going to be defending the box, and they throw crosses into the box constantly, and they have good players that both can deliver balls and like I say, that sort of central threat where they have 3-4 players at times arriving in the box. So just at that point in the game, we felt it was the right choice to make, to keep the game stable, and not forgetting we're away from home at a good, in a tough place against a good team. And it was just a choice that we made, partly, yes, to introduce Tom as a certain player in that moment for extra time, but also then to arrange the game in the way where we felt we could keep it the most stable, and play for the moments that we felt we might be able to create. But as much as anything, just make sure we stayed in the game. We always felt that the longer we stayed in the game, we would always give ourselves a chance to go and win in the end.
Thank you.
Coach, this is a weird situation for me. I'm used to going first, so I knew these co-hosts of mine had some really good questions for you. So I'm going to actually ask you to be a little bit creative here. Bring out a little bit of your creativity. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a show on Disney Plus from Marvel Studios called What If, where they take a major event in the cinematic universe and say what would have happened if it happened differently. If Orange County SC was creating their version of What If, would there be a moment you could pick from the 2025 season for that first episode, and how would it change things on the season?
Ooh, any moment that I feel would have had a big effect.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen the show you referenced, so I'll have to take a look at that one. But Yeah, do you know what? It's a great question. I think really, it's. I mean, look, there's, look, I could of course look at the most recent, final minute of the playoff game in New Mexico, but I think that's maybe too obvious of an answer. But I think there's probably a couple of situations through the season where we look back at it and we say these were big results for us that really got us somewhere, and a couple of ways that you look back and you say, if we'd held on to another point in that game or a result somewhere, I think it maybe could. I mean, look, in the end, I believe we finished 2 points from having a home playoff game. So you could. I mean, look, it's probably difficult for me to pick one moment that potentially could influence that. But again, this is the season. There's games where you say, look, we've done well to get a point or 3 points in a game, and there's other games you look back at and you say that's a game we let a point slip. That's a game we maybe feel we could have held on to three, and I think it's easy to look back at that now, but you probably can see both sides of that. But I think probably a big moment I think in the season would be, I think in the last sort of push towards the playoffs, I think the winning goals that probably Usman Silla scored against San Antonio, that was I think a big moment. I think that was something, if I'm really picking a highlight moment from the season, there's plenty, but certainly in the more recent games, I think that was obviously a big one for us, a big moment for him individually, a big moment for the team in terms of pushing towards where we wanted to get to in the playoff contention. And I think that was also a moment where it really, not that people didn't believe anyway. I already felt the team was at a good point at that stage, but just getting that victory, I think, at home to San Antonio, in the last minute of the game, which I've said, for us at this last weekend, it's the most difficult way to lose. It's probably one of those situations where it creates so much joy and so much so much excitement around the final result, and I think that really made people believe. Certainly in the locker room, and I think probably as well outside of the team environment for the fans, that I think gave people something to say. Okay, this is possible. We can keep pushing here and get ourselves where we want to be and make a good run for it, which I think is what we saw in the end.
And then my last thing, and then maybe one or two fan questions that the gentleman on the show with me can answer. As you're aware, I pulled up a nice photo from your playing days a while back, and you got a chance to see it and sign it. There's the picture right there. I want to get your interpretation of the style that we're seeing Coach Danny Stone as a player. What was the style you had, and can you take us back? Do you sort of remember when this was, and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, look, I think that's probably around, I want to maybe say 2001, 2002, possibly something like that. That's at Notts County. And I think you can see, it's amazing just how far uniforms and kits have come in the last 20, 25 years or so. And this is, believe it or not, I think that's a short sleeve jersey that I'm wearing there. And that's, there wasn't a lot of choice. I know players nowadays have choice. Do they want a small, medium, large, whatever size they prefer? And I think in this situation, it was, this was you get given what you're given, and you make it fit and you make it work. And the shin pads, I think you can see there, are very different to what you see as well, probably for the most part now. And then I'm sure the thing that most people are gonna draw most attention to, which for me, I don't even notice it anymore, is it's a long time since I had a head of hair like that. So. That's probably, I'm sure, going to be the thing that people will pick out most. But yeah, this is probably around 2001, I would guess, something like that at Notts County. And for me as a player, I was mostly a right back as a professional player, and I think probably a similar personality in a playing style as to what I feel I maybe am as a coach. I think I put a lot into it. I didn't want to ever feel like I missed anything, and didn't do everything I could to make my performance as good as possible. I was, a competitive player, certainly, absolutely physically competitive, and enjoyed competing, and that's no different to where I see myself now. But looking back I don't see these photos very often anymore, but certainly that's one that there's a lot of changes for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy when you go back even just 20 years, 20 some odd years, 25 years, I guess. The style differences, the baggy clothes, I think were the thing back then for
Yeah.
anyone in almost any sport, which is really interesting there. And I don't think you would see any player wearing the shin guards that size. I think everyone now has just whatever the bare minimum you have to wear to legally be allowed to play the game. I think that's what most players these days, including these young players these days that I see when my son's out there playing soccer.
Yeah.
Let me just I'm going to go look really quick and see if there's any fan questions we have that we can ask. I asked my co-host if there's any that they saw.
There was indeed. Joseph Figueroa asked, any players on your radar from college or another league that you think would look good donning an Orange County Soccer Club uniform?
I mean, of course there will be. Yes. I think maybe it wouldn't be the right thing for me to name specific names on the show tonight. I'm sure you can probably appreciate that, but yeah, look, the college game and of course other leagues, and normal. We'll be looking inside the US at leagues in America, but also yes, the college game certainly is a place that we'll look at, and of course we'll always have some international players as well in the group, like we have done this season. But it will always be a combination of all of those things. And then pre-season really is a time that it's a good opportunity to invite some people in, and certainly there'll be players that will be signed, ready to go, because we'll be very familiar with those players, and we know what we feel we'll get from them, and players will of course get signed in that way. But also through pre-season, we'll have an opportunity to bring players, I'm sure, in on trial, and we'll always need plenty of players to train and work with the group through pre-season, and that is always an opportunity for people to earn something with the club. And I think, probably no better example of that than Mo Ward this year. He was a player who I know had been around the club a little bit in pre-seasons previously, but we brought him in and he worked really with the team from day one of pre-season this year, and earned everything he got in terms of his contract with the club. And I think for Mo has had an excellent season this year, and has added a lot of value. And honestly, he's a player that maybe doesn't necessarily always get spoken about, but certainly for me and for the staff and for his teammates, he is a prime example of everything that I've spoken about previously in this conversation. Mo is an outstanding teammate. He is an energy giver. He's an excellent professional, and offers a lot to a squad of players. And like I say, he earned everything that he was that he got from a contract offer with the club, and then I think he's been an extremely valuable player all the way through to the last game in the playoffs this year. He's played a huge role, and sometimes it's nice for me sometimes to be able to speak about a player like that, because the first and foremost, the person that he is huge. Is so important, and the more people like that we have around the team and the club, the better things will always be. So that's probably a nice segue for me to give him a well-deserved mention there, but also tie it back to the question that you've asked there, where there's opportunities for a lot of people when we move into an off season and go into a pre-season. And I'm sure there'll be another example that I can point to in a year from now where somebody's achieved something similar. But it's a really nice situation to be able to reference for sure.
Well, with that, Coach, I we've actually gone past our normal time for the show, but you're such a great guest. You always have some great information to share with us. We definitely wanted to ask you some questions. I know there were some other fan questions. We'll maybe take take a list of those, and if there's any that we want to throw on your way for you to give a chance to answer, we'll definitely do that for you. Coach, before we let you go, any last words to the fans on 2025 heading into 2026?
Yeah, look, always the biggest thing I can say always is first a huge thank you to everybody who supported the team through the course of the season, and that's it's the biggest thing that we do is try to be something that represents people well and gives people something to love and enjoy getting behind. And we've felt, again, I use the same word that I've said a few times now, the energy that we feel from people when we play, at home at the stadium, and we know are behind us, and we reference this in the playoffs this year as well. We know what's behind us when we're away from home, and we feel it obviously in person every time we play at home. And a huge thank you first and foremost to everybody that's got behind the team. And I wish we could make more. Say more individual thank yous and spend more time with people always, but I think this is an appreciated platform that you've given me here to send that message. And for us, we always want to give back to those people. We always want to do as well as we possibly can for them, and I hope we've this year given people something to be proud of. And of course, in sport, there's always disappointment, and everybody but one team is in the end going to feel pretty disappointed at some point, and we know this with playing a professional sport. But we hope we've represented people well, and the intention obviously is always to go again. And like I said a few times now, the planning is already in place, and we look towards 2026, and we want to give back to people again as much as possible. So this is the aim, and this is the intention, and this is what we will strive to do. But again, a huge thank you to everybody for everything they've given, and we can't wait to do it all again, in a couple of months' time. So we're really looking forward to seeing everybody again back in person, and we're looking forward to 2026. Let's do it again.
There you have it, everyone. The head coach for your Orange County Soccer Club in 2026, Coach Danny Stone. Coach, thanks as always for taking some time to speak with us, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the near future.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Awesome.